Juggernaut is a deranged game for the PlayStation 1. It's a neat little horror game that nobody really talks about, which is a shame because it has all kinds of fun things. Demonic possession, human experiments, futuristic fake video games about harvesting oranges, machines designed to look like baby hands, the deep, existential horror of losing the person closest to you. Karate chops, liminal spaces, and a cat throwing up eyeballs. If this sounds like a fun adventure to you, sit down and let me tell you all about it. There really isn't any information available on Juggernaut, like, at all, aside from the companies that are responsible for its wretched existence. So let's take a look at the box. Prepare to open the gates of hell. Alright, okay, this game sounds interesting, but why is it called Juggernaut? Juggernaut, a destructive, overpowering force. Also, Juggernaut equals an idol of Krishna at Puri in Orissa, India, annually drawn on an enormous cart under whose wheels devotees are said to have thrown themselves to be crushed to attain enlightenment. In Hindu, it means Lord of the World. I'ma be real with you, Juggernaut, I'm actually a little more confused. Now, real quick, before we get into Juggernaut, I've got a question for you. Do you often find yourself getting so lost in a game that the only thing that snaps you back to reality is the sun peeking through the blinds? That's the worst. How are you going to sleep now? Manta Sleep products have you covered. These bad boys block out 100% of pesky, irresponsible sleep schedule morning light. They also come with fun accessories like cool eye cups and aromatherapy dots. This particular model shown here also has built-in headphones, so you can listen to early bird videos instead of the existential dread. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or a freaky little stomach sleeper, Manta sleep masks are comfortable. Below, you'll see some Manta products on your YouTube page. Click them for more information. Any purchases made through the YouTube shop will directly support the channel and your sleep habits. Don't forget to use coupon code EARLY at checkout for 10% off your order. Big thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring and supporting the channel. Juggernaut starts out in the most horrifying way. You hear the sound of a bottle breaking. You see a bunch of clown imagery in a thunderstorm, but that's not the scary part. The scary part is you'll quickly come to realize that this game does not feature voice acting, and thus, I will be narrating it in its entirety. Good luck. Evil, 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 evil. The opening of the story goes like this. Evil, evil. Your beloved girlfriend Sarah was supposed to meet you at your house in the morning. She's always been known to be a very predictable and punctual person, but she never arrived. Evil, evil. This bitch didn't even call you. Something terrible must have happened to her. The perspective shifts to Sarah. She's sitting in a room with a creepy fucking doll and staring intently at a glass bottle for some reason. You never do get a call from Sarah, but you do get a call from a strange man. The man tells you that you need to come to her house immediately. And the gameplay begins. Juggernaut functions gameplay-wise a lot like Myst. To move around, you simply point in the direction you'd like to go. You go on inside the house and your girlfriend has been tied to a chair by a priest. The room is filled with a terrible, sickening smell. It looks like Sarah's soul has been taken away by an evil force. The priest is like, my brother in Christ, I'm gonna be real with you. Sarah has been possessed by an evil entity, an ancient demon that came out of that broken bottle. Apparently, things around the house have gotten real poltergeisty. The doll is tweaking and mattresses are flinging, but like not in the fun way. The priest is like, ah shit, every second that passes, Sarah is becoming more and more evil. He warns not to get anywhere near her.
Stay away from her!
Unfortunately, despite the warning, shit hits the fan anyway. The demon within Sarah destroys the ropes binding her body to the chair and whips out a mighty T-pose to really strike fear into everyone's hearts. The priest prays to the Lord for penetration. Someone's gotta go into Sarah's soul and fight the demon head on, and surely it's not going to be the priest, it's going to be you. Get in there, bozo. Going into someone's soul to fight a mysterious evil sounds scary, so the priest spits some truly motivational words that I think all of us should remember in our day-to-day lives. The battle will be difficult and may seem to last forever. But remember, early bird will never forsake you, so subscribe, goddammit. Sarah's final act before being completely consumed by the evil force is to fork over a pendant. This pendant is an item that will sit in the inventory and allow the game to be saved at any time, which is quite handy. Apparently, if the demon is not properly vanquished, both protagonist man and Sarah will become the devil's slaves for all eternity. And with that, it's time to go balls deep into Sarah. Her soul, that is. Into her soul. Am I about to enter reality, or is it all merely a dream? But I can be certain that in Sarah's agonizing eyes, I saw her pleading for my help. Though I was apprehensive in my fading consciousness, I was determined to retrieve my beloved Sarah. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a strange beach. The sun in front of me looks as if it were a bag filled with blood. It's a gory star that paints the world in a bloody red. This is where Juggernaut really starts to get weird. I do not say this lightly, but Juggernaut might just be the weirdest game I have ever played. While wandering through a mysterious forest, periodically the priest will use his, priestly telepathic powers to communicate information and clues. Deep within the forest is a tower with a spiral staircase. At the end of a bridge sits an old man. A cryptic old man that asks existential questions like, what is it that you are searching for? To which, of course, you respond, that which destroys the soul. Grandpa starts talking about a mansion that will arrive soon. If you ask him when the mansion will appear, he flips his shit. Tomorrow, yesterday, and now. Yo, I don't know why the old guy exploded, but he dropped some sweet loot. A birdcage with a clock in it. This game does environments really well, and it does a very good job at being creepy and unsettling while you puzzle around just purely due to how strange it is. Like, for example, a lot of the puzzles involve some kind of unsettling sounds. When you place this record correctly, it's supposed to say dog, god, evil, live, words which are clues for a puzzle later on. But there's this weird, uncanny valley kind of feeling sitting there in an empty room in an empty forest, listening to the slightly off voice say those strange words in a slightly off way with no context. Maybe that's just me, maybe I'm just a little bitch baby. I just wanted you to get a little bit of a feel of the tone of these puzzles. They're kind of unsettling. Completing all of the puzzles available in the tower causes the forest to shake. A mysterious dock materializes along with a floating island. Stepping into the footprints at the end of the dock teleports the player outside of a mysterious mansion. Could this be the mansion the old man birdcage spoke of? At each side of the mansion are these strange little fellas in masks. They refer to the protagonist as the Chosen One. They're quite cryptic and existential and enjoy riddles with cards. The guy at the front hands over a dog card, and the others transform the cards. Dog becomes God, God becomes evil, and evil becomes live. Giving the live card to the otherwise helpful and passive masked figure causes him to say this. This card represents life of the Chosen One. I'll open the mansion's door in exchange for your rotting body. Okay, I guess. Alright, let me break down how inside the mansion works. It houses rooms that the priest refers to as microcosms. Each microcosm of Sarah's soul is harboring evil. In order to extinguish the demon's presence, the goal is to eliminate the evil in each of these areas. At the deepest point of the mansion is this twisted door. Every time a microcosm is cleansed, the door unwarps just a bit. If any of you watch true crime, this kind of reminds me of how detectives caught the creepy ass swirl face guy. However, there's just one teeny tiny little obstacle. Since our physical body was given to the guy in the mask, we are now merely a drifting soul. This is a problem because an incorporeal being cannot interact with puzzles. The priest pops up and is like, bro, listen, I know that freaky little guy taking your rotting, disgusting body from you is a bit of a pickle, but if my prayer is answered, there should be bodies available in the mansion. Dog, I'm gonna be real with you, that's a concerning thing to pray for. I don't like that. There are indeed bodies in the mansion. Your funky little ghost soul can enter a machine that injects you into the body. The idea is that you need to constantly swap between your ghost form, an adult body, and a juvenile body. The adult can reach high objects, the juvenile can fit into small spaces, and the ghost can travel freely. The problem is, the bodies are very time-consuming to swap, and you can only do so at specific machines. This causes a lot of backtracking. There's also very little direction on where to go or what to do within the mansion, and there are a lot of rooms, floors, and secret passageways. This will have you spending a long time going from a high floor to the bottom floor to swap bodies, just to go right back to where you were to open a door, and then you immediately need the other body again. The mansion also just has this very surreal, dreamlike quality to it as you explore. Everything is either a little bit liminal or off in some way. The game constantly brings up how terrible things smell or how decayed something is. Even just picking up key items is gross. Some of the rooms are really bizarre, like this chess room that you absolutely cannot pass through because you get dick slapped if you try. Or this lovely clown machine. Once you actually manage to find a microcosm, the priest informs you that your past memories will mean nothing inside of it. This is where Juggernaut kind of turns into a little anthology with mini Black Mirror episodes. Suddenly the game's perspective shifts, and the protagonist we take control of is now a shipwreck survivor that was rescued from beasts by a girl on an island. The island isn't safe. The girl is terrified and there are frequent gunshots. Even though the girl doesn't speak the same language, the protagonist tries to comfort her through the night by speaking to her to keep her mind off of the horrifying sounds of the island. He tells her all about his life back home, about the couple next door that fought all the time, about his 2 dogs, and the beautiful blue lake that he could see from his house. And though she doesn't understand, she appreciates the kindness. The next morning, it's time to explore the island to figure out what's going on. Things are, for the most part, pretty quiet and peaceful, aside from all of the dead soldiers sprinkling the beach and the village. There's a lot of dead guys. The strange thing about all of the dead soldiers is what could have possibly killed them? If one soldier turned on all of the others, there should be at least one survivor. If beasts had hunted them, one could assume they would have been eaten. Suddenly the girl seems a little suspicious. Maybe she's just acting meek and scared, but she actually killed them all. But then another gunshot rings out and the protagonist is brought to his senses. Of course she couldn't have done it. There must be somewhere on the island that hasn't been explored yet. To add to the mystery, upon further inspection, the bodies on the beach are already decomposed into skeletons. This of course means that they must have been killed much longer ago than the fresh bodies in the village. Gasp! A discovery! A soldier hidden deep within the forest. The game gives you some subtle hints that perhaps this guy is a little bit crazy. Subtle clues like, Hee 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 hee. I'm pulling the trigger now, I'm telling ya. And I wonder if your flesh would scatter into pieces, and lots of blood would pour out. Hee 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 hee. Let's start shooting the children from the end. You'd better run with me. That boy with the short pants killed off all of my comrades. Ha ha hee 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 ha ha hee 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 hee. Yes, what a very normal and sane interaction. The crazy guy had kept ranting about evil children and some kid in shorts. Coincidentally, the next visit to the beach reveals the island girl with a gaggle of children. Glowing children. The history of the island is then explained. 20 years ago, soldiers pulled up in ships and tried to colonize the island. The islanders fought back, which prompted the soldiers to take a baby hostage. This baby was apparently worshipped by the islanders as a god. The soldiers threatened to kill the baby and any outsiders that would try to step foot on the island. The boy that's lead boy of the Ghost Boy Parade explains that he and the other children aren't actually islanders. They happened to pass by too closely in another ship and thus were attacked as the soldiers thought that they were trying to approach the island. Anyone that survived the subsequent shipwreck was killed at gunpoint by the islanders as ordered by the soldiers. 1 month later, the soldiers once again tried to come onto the island. The villagers were not pleased and screamed at them to return the baby. A fight ensued and the soldiers killed everyone except for one, the baby, who they just slapped on top of the carcass pile. The ghost children of the island took it upon themselves to raise the baby with what spiritual energy they had. Then the lead boy gives a graphic account of how they slaughtered the soldiers for revenge. The first soldier had his stomach ripped open and his guts pulled out. The second had his head twisted and squashed on the beach. One by one, the soldiers were killed until they finally burned the final one at his tent. And then, plot twist! The protagonist, you, the player, are the baby. You're indeed a reborn god named Banura. Now that all of the soldiers are deceased and you, Banura, are a happy, healthy adult, the ghosts of the island have no further goals and wish to be laid to rest. You accomplish this by shooting them right in their little chapped-lipped faces.
Please.
Voila! Microcosm resolved! The next microcosm is set in a huge prison where supposedly unethical experiments are being performed. We take on the role of a special agent working in a special department under a chief named M. M explains a bit about the prison. Apparently the jailer there is codenamed PI-505G. If we're able to find solid evidence that he's responsible for these evil experiments actually taking place, M will be able to send in a team to halt the operation. The mission will be extremely dangerous, and of course, since it's undercover, we must do it alone. M hands over a fake ID that will get us into the prison. This episode is kind of fun because it constantly tries to make awkward little jokes, like, for example, "Ugh, groan, no unethical experiment could possibly be as cruel as my boss's demands." And I know you're a high-level secret agent, but you've only got 30 minutes to make it to the boat that's going to take you to the secret prison. Also, I never arranged for any transport, so you'll have to run all the way there on your own 2 feet. Haha, what quirky hijinks. Good luck. While exploring the prison, it becomes apparent that certain areas that we might need to see are only accessible to scientists wearing white lab coats. This means we will need to obtain a white lab coat. This is accomplished in Juggernaut by fucking karate chopping some bald guy on his 15-minute break and shoving him into a locker to steal his clothes. The disguise makes the experiment rooms accessible, and it appears that there are indeed unethical experiments happening. In the room, there's a man strapped to the table with all kinds of medical equipment attached to him and needles poking out of basically his entire body. This takes us to my favorite line in the game: "The man on the bed looks like a hedgehog." A scientist explains that the needles are all inserted into the most sensitive parts of the man's body and that they intend to run electricity through them to cause a massive stimulation. Apparently the goal is to cause the subject to produce endorphins so that it can be extracted for the experiment. The scientist demands that we hit the switch to begin the electric shock. A moral quandary. Is it really ethical for us to electrocute this hedgehog man for the greater good of exposing the operation? The next experiment is just, it's weird. The scientists have burned the patient with sulfuric acid to make him really itchy. So, I don't even know how to tell you guys this. To, release endorphins in the patient, the scientist asks for the Child Finger S. This is a tool that will increase the itching in the patient by almost kind of scratching it, making it worse. The next tool, the Big Bear Hand, will actually scratch the itch, and the tremendous relief will cause an endorphin flow the likes of which the world has never seen. In theory, anyway. This game is fucking weird. The bald guy that was karate chopped for his lab coat earlier recognizes the karate chopper because he has eyes. A security guard gets called in, so of course the next natural step is to super combination them both. Security in the entire building is now on high alert, and so are these hands. Another guard tries to stop us in the elevator. Mantis jab! Luckily for us, this guard is actually another undercover agent for M. He is called WL and assumes that M must have sent us to finish the job because he hadn't been responding. M must have presumed him dead, but he just wasn't able to contact him. The Mantis Jab is a karate move in M's training protocol, which is how we are recognized. WL fake arrests us to get the heat off our back, and while we await being broken out, it's time to have a chat with some of the prisoners, all of whom are subjects for the unethical experiments. A frail old man explains that the prisoners move through the cell blocks, getting weaker and weaker until eventually they are never seen again. By the way, Grandpa, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Relatable conversation. Then the geriatric 29-year-old scuttles away to yet another torturous procedure.
Oh well. See ya.
WL frees us from the cell, and we see Grandpa about to get his eyeballs gouged out. In a desperate attempt to stop the experiment, the old power switch gets flipped, causing the whole building to go into a panic. With absolute confirmation that prisoners are indeed being mistreated, it's time to go with WL to confront the jailer PI-505G. The jailer is not particularly thrilled about the threat of being under arrest for his crimes against humanity and calls in some guards. But there's no problem too big for M's karate training protocol. Karate textbook, page 30. Kangaroo punch! Except, perhaps there might be maybe one thing that is impervious to karate. Guns. PI's final words are that WL really doesn't know anything about what's truly going on, and then WL perishes. And also, apparently PI is an android. Just look at that thing waggle. The experiments are stopped and we report back in with M, filling him in on everything that we've learned and seen, and of course telling him of WL's death. M explains that there now exists a pure extract of endorphin as a result of the experiments. Anyone that were to have this substance injected into them or swallowed would experience an overwhelming torment and then die. Suddenly, M offers us some coffee that is mysteriously endorphin bottle colored, and it's glowing and stuff. Probably definitely should not drink that. As we hesitate, M gets all mad and is like, "Bitch, drink it, you need to die." Turns out that M was the one controlling the PI robot all along because he wanted to use the endorphin to create a drug to sell to the masses to get filthy stinkin' rich. He realized that we and WL were smart and sent us on a mission to the prison, figuring that we would get killed, which would solve M's problem of people asking questions. To which we say, "Drink the coffee yourself, you dumb bitch." He then endures unimaginable agony, and the evil is cleansed from the microcosm. The next microcosm is kind of a follow-up, maybe? I actually am unsure. I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, I'm gonna be pretty brief with it. Some dude in a bowler hat is like, "Hey, you need to go to this prison and kill the warden to take his place. Congratulations, you're gonna be the new warden." I didn't realize that prison wardens functioned like Tim Allen's Santa Claus, where you have to kill the current one to take over, but okay. This version of the same exact prison we just played through is somehow more fucked up and scary. Prisoners are shoved into a cell labeled as the pig pen, and the sounds of the pitch black hallways are kind of unsettling. The prisoners in this version of the microcosm are also being tortured, but it kinda seems more like they're being tortured just to be tortured rather than for any grander purpose. The game also attempts to do a shooting mechanic in this area, and it's really more of just a pain than anything. The torture scenes of the prisoners in this microcosm are, well, they're just unpleasant. Although I gotta admit, the little no's kind of crack me up. At the end of the storyline, the warden ends up being PI 505G, but I'm actually not sure if it's really supposed to be him, or if they were just really hard up for assets and just reused the model. Either way, the warden expresses that he tortures the prisoners here to make himself feel good as he enjoys seeing the expressions on their faces when they arrive at their beautiful deaths. Then he yeets himself out of a window and tells the new warden that they better enjoy his death because they are now the new warden, and it kind of implies there's this cycle of wardens enjoying torturing people. I'm pretty sure it's maybe supposed to be its own plot. I actually don't know. Microcosm defeated. The next microcosm begins with you passed out on a beach. You're awoken by a large group of men who do not recognize you. And of course, you have no memory. There are about 1 billion characters in this episode, so we're only going to talk about the important ones. Darren is the chief and Jaggy is his son. Apparently, the jungles of the island show no mercy to anyone, and thus, to the people living here, you must prove that you are worthy of their resources to survive. You are challenged to a duel to prove your strength. The duel event comes with a fabulous prize package with a whopping 2 options. Prize number 1, if you win, you'll be accepted as a member of the island and be provided with food and shelter. Prize number 2, if you do not win, you will, well, you'll be torn apart and your body will be dumped in the death spring.
Nah, don't start crying.
Okay.
You promise not to cry. Then show her that prize. It's a new man.
The duel begins, but really the only battle this guy should be fighting is trying to find some chapstick. The rival swings a sword around menacingly and clearly means business. You are unarmed and any attempt to hurt him fails. Until, that is, he raises his sword to do a super sassy sexy combo and leaves an opening to get pushed to the ground. Jaggy immediately gets pissed off for some reason that his comrade didn't win, but the squad ignores him and gives you a name. You are now Ugosa. Congratulations, you sound like you were named by the Blue Dragon Flight. As you wander around the island to familiarize yourself with your new home, Chief Darren tells you about a vicious animal that lives in the jungle. One of the reasons only the strongest can live in the village. This animal is called the Largy, and it kills indiscriminately. You also begin to have strange visions that give you insight to what the villagers are thinking. It boils down to Jaggy very much not liking you. However, at the root of these visions is always one central figure. This guy, the village shaman who burns sage in a pot all day. He warns that there's an ominous local legend. The legend says that when the path that leads to the death spring turns white, all life on the island will perish. And, wouldn't you know it, as soon as you turned up, he noticed a tree root looking a little white. But we're not gonna let a silly old legend bother us. Tonight is a festival. A culturally important festival that no one on the island would dare to miss. Well, except for that guy that you dueled earlier, he never showed up. We'll just take a quick little oh my god, he's definitely dead. Bitch-ass Jaggy goes right to blaming you, but the village remains somewhat hopeful since no body was found. The search continues and it becomes apparent that whoever was attacked inside of the hut was dragged outside. This leads a villager to wonder if it could have been a Largy that got him. But apparently Largies are the size of elephants, so that's fucking horrifying and also means that a Largy could not have possibly gotten into the hut. Another villager goes missing in the same exact way. On top of that, the path to the death spring turns all the way white before your very eyes. This sets everyone on edge and they are all now a lot more willing to suspect you and even threaten to kill you. As you flee for your life, the mystery starts to unravel and it is very convoluted and strange. More and more people keep getting attacked and dragged away. Eventually, you come across a mysterious masked figure dragging and burning the dead body of the chief. Whoever is beneath that mask is definitely the killer. To literally no one's surprise, it's Jaggy. However, strangely enough, Jaggy doesn't seem to recognize you at all. He starts spouting off nonsense about the path to the Death Spring and is eerily not making any sense. Then, once again, he attacks you, and check out these slick moves, they're very cool.
Die.
Before Jaggy can kill you, another villager named Tyros that you've come to know jumps in and kills him. However, this guy's not any more stable than Jaggy, he's straight up tripping balls actually. When you say to him, "Hey man, it's me, Ugosa, you don't need to be freaking out at me," he's like, "I don't know who the fuck Ugosa is, but you know who I do hate though? This dumb bitch named Gunbus." Everything started to turn to shit when Gunbus showed up. One by one, everyone on the island started dying, and the path to the Death Spring started turning white the day Gunbus arrived. Tyros attacks you, but you both pass out and the screen fades to black. The narration goes on to explain that everyone on the island, including Tyros, Jaggy, and Darren, are all actually wanted suspects. This explanation gets insane and goes on forever, so I won't get into all of it, but basically, long story short, a military team of special forces called ARM were after the group of terrorists who were hiding on an island. ARM was shipwrecked on the way to the island and only one member survived. This lone special forces unit knew that he couldn't subdue the terrorists alone, but he wanted to eliminate their threat to the world nonetheless. He devised a plan to infiltrate the terrorists. He snuck into the old man's hut and began burning a powerful drug called Satiriga. You see, this is why everyone thought that the guy was burning sage. Satiriga caused everyone on the island to become paranoid and potentially violent. To fuel this fire, the military band fed them stories about hideous beasts called Largies, and in general caused chaos to scare them, all while wearing a gas mask to prevent himself from hallucinating. Gunbus never existed, Ugosa never existed, and the islanders really aren't islanders at all. Once all of the terrorists were dead, the military guy gets saved from the island and brought home. Microcosm solved. The mysterious door untwists a little bit more. On the way to the next microcosm, the priest is like, "You better start hurrying the fuck up. There are limits to my power," and Sarah is starting to turn all the way evil. This brings us to my personal favorite microcosm story. In this story, we'll take on the role of an ambitious journalist. This journalist has taken an interest in the story of a biologist that was able to locate a mythical creature, a winged cat called Fila. Fila looks really cool and was found deep in a jungle 18 years ago. Fila was revered as a god and worshipped by a village. These villagers had a lot of myths surrounding Fila, such as that it could speak like a human and that it could cause a person to lose their ability to think and reason by looking at them directly in the eye. Leon Kennedy's got that effect on me, you know what I'm saying? The biologist captured the beast and took it home to his personal collection before becoming a hermit. He cut off any contact with friends and completely withdrew from society. At the office, this guy, oh my god, I'm sorry, dude, you scared me. I apologize. Anyway, this guy has the audacity to call the biologist creepy. You know, something, don't throw stones in glass houses. He says that strange deaths have surrounded the doctor and a terrible fate has befallen any reporter that tries to get too close. But you are no coward. The fact that no other reporter has been able to get close makes the scoop even juicier. Somehow, fate smiles upon you and you secure an interview with the doctor. To get to the doctor's house, you have to walk down a seemingly endless pitch-black forest path. Eventually, though, the house finally comes into view and Angela from Silent Hill 2 answers the door. Haha, just kidding, that's Eliza. However, it's getting late, so you introduce yourself to her and the doctor, but the interview will have to wait for tomorrow. You make the observation that the doctor appears to be much older than he should be, and he seems incredibly tired. Eliza shows you to your room, and the music in this house is fucking ominous for some reason. I'm sure nothing terrible is about to happen. Eliza is a courteous host and shows you around the house on your way to the bedroom, and of course, one of the most important stops is the bathroom, but, what is that? There appears to be blood on the bathroom floor. Eliza is like, "Oh my god, I thought I cleaned that all up." which is not necessarily the most reassuring thing she could have said. She tries to explain it away by telling you the other day she cut her finger very badly and that it's no big deal, you're going to get murdered. In the next room, many of the doctor's artifacts are stored, including the taxidermied body of the legendary, mythical Fila. Eliza tells you that the artifacts and Fila are from Zaire. That's how you know that this game is old, because Zaire was renamed to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in 1997. Eliza sounds quite sad to say that the people in the village that loved Fila lived together with it for a very long time. Unfortunately, her father's discovery of it destroyed the peaceful life that they all shared. You just can't keep your little paws to yourself and reach out to touch a mysterious mask on the artifact shelf. Eliza's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't touch that. That once belonged to a powerful shaman named Xanu who killed himself. The mask also has a matching spear, and the set was made from another Fila's feathers, claws, and skull. On your way out of the room, you notice something a little bit odd about Fila. Then you notice something a little bit odd out in the hallway. Apparently, the toilet is not in the bathroom and in fact is under the stairs. Eliza apologizes that the toilet isn't in the washroom. Is this a thing? Are there houses designed like this? Finally, Eliza shows you to your room so you can rest up a bit before the interview. Upon finally getting to talk to the doctor, he tells you about his family in Zaire. He had a wife and 3 children, but the only survivor of the trip was Eliza. He says there was a problem with the local people that caused this tragic outcome. Eliza was born only 1 month before the incident. He understandably gets worked up and emotional talking about his deceased family and says he needs a break. With nothing better to do, you go for a pleasant walk outside at night in the creepy forest where you can hear wolves howling by yourself, past a headstone to a creepy church. Inside the church, the priest is dead. His torso is slashed and his eyes are mercilessly gouged out. You hurry back to the house to tell the doctor. He's like, well, I suppose you should probably go upstairs to call the police then. That's the 3rd victim. You say, 3rd victim? The fuck you mean? He's like, yeah, the police keep trying to say it's a bear attacking people, but I don't know a bitch-ass bear to be gouging out eyes. True, you say. Definitely not a bear. Upstairs, you and Eliza attempt to call the police, but of course the phone isn't working. Why would it be working? This would not be a horror short story if the phone worked. Eliza panics that a killer is on the loose, yet for some reason she refuses to get in the car and leave. Because what if the car breaks down on the way back to town? What? The risk of having your eyes gouged out in the house is much greater than your car randomly breaking down. Could they not have just written them as not owning a car since the doctor withdrew from society? That would make a lot more sense. When you go to sleep that night, the spirit of Xanu the shaman appears before you because you touched his mask. He says he's here to fulfill a pledge to the doctor, but he doesn't elaborate on what that is. He tries to convince you that you should go downstairs and pick up the spear and wear his mask, but that he takes no responsibility for what may happen if you do. That sounds like a very good idea. Interacting with the mask once again shows you a vision. Yeah, damn, look at those abs. The villagers were offered money by the doctor to aid in Fila's capture. Some of them sold out and accepted the offer to turn in the beast with whom they had so peacefully lived. Xanu was disgusted by this behavior and defended Fila until the very end. He disrupted the process of the capture in any way that he could. Those that wanted the money became frustrated with him getting in the way and gouged out his eyes. You awaken back in your own body, screaming out in agony about the pain in your eyes before realizing it was just a vision. Eliza chalks it up to just being a nightmare since you had just seen a dead priest. You try to get some rest, but as you fall asleep, Xanu appears to you once more. You have a conversation with him, and he finds it quite amusing that you experienced his pain. He says that with his eyes gone, he was completely powerless in his mortal shell to do anything. His mask and spear were taken from him and used to control Fila. You're like, oh, well, I guess being blinded is what made you kill yourself, huh? To which Xanu is like, nah, I walked straight into a burning building to rid myself of this body so that I had full spiritual power to fuck up the doctor's life and curse him. Anyway, bye. Obviously, the doctor is kind of looking like the bad guy here. Why would he in good conscience try to steal a literal god from the people that revered and worshipped it? When you confront him about this, he admits that it was selfish to want Fila for himself. He genuinely does seem full of regret, not just for what happened to his family, but for what happened to the village as well. He tells you more about Xanu's curse. Xanu had told the doctor that in 18 years Fila would revive and kill everyone, and wouldn't you know it, Eliza just turned 18 years old. The doctor, being a man of science, is convinced that there's no magical curse on the loose. He theorizes that someone from the village must be lurking in the shadows to exact revenge. To go and try and find the killer to confront them head-on, the doctor drags you out into the forest. You walk through the darkness to check anywhere a killer might be hiding, including the houses of neighbors. But uh-oh, all of the neighbors are dead. House after house is full of the bodies of people slashed open with their eyes gouged out, some of them clutching feathers that look suspiciously like Fila's. You quickly rush back to the house to check on Fila. There just has to be something going on with it. You bring up the fact to the doctor that it's kinda suspicious that Fila has blood on its fangs and claws. Eliza says that she once heard a legend that the shamans could give temporary life to dead bodies to control them, so maybe that's what's happening. Finally convinced that something supernatural might just be going on, the doctor agrees that for safety, someone should watch Fila at all times. You take the first shift. Eliza brings you some tea and has a long chat with you. When she leaves, you get kinda bored and end up falling asleep. My brother in Christ, you had one job. And now the doctor's dead, slashed all over his office floor. I mean, to be fair, of all of the attacks, if anybody deserved it, it's kinda this guy. But alas, Eliza is very sad nonetheless. Once again, you try to coax her into leaving with you, and she finally agrees. But she's like, well, hold on, if we're going to flee a vicious serial killer or a mythical beast, I better make some food before we go. Her hesitance to leave is really suspicious. The blood on the floor in the bathroom that she tried to cover up, the fact that you got sleepy the second after you finished drinking her tea, you start thinking to yourself, if the curse was meant to take place 18 years after the incident in the village, and Eliza is exactly that age, maybe, just maybe, the curse was actually placed on her. Xanu reveals that he has in fact been possessing Eliza's body this whole time and used her to kill everyone, and you're the next sacrifice to Fila. This spawns a fun little segment where if you mess up, you can actually die, one of the very few parts of Juggernaut where death is possible. This ramps up the stakes and the chase sequence actually kind of gets a little stressful. You can constantly hear Eliza's footsteps getting closer and closer. But if you manage to succeed, you can knock the mask off of her face and bring her back to sentience. Another microcosm finished. We're getting down to the final microcosms. In this one, you don't go through the usual old wooden microcosm door, you come across a cyberpunk-looking helmet in the nebulous void. You take on the role of an insurance fraud investigator in a futuristic setting. Most of the segment revolves around using Juggernaut's version of the internet. And the soundtrack kinda be bangin'. Online, you can browse all kinds of products for sale, like this floating semi that goes 420 miles per hour, haha nice. Or these Kiroshi optic implants that, quote, Reduction of blinking noise and eye movement are finally realized. There are even virtual art galleries to wander through. It's really impressive and fun how much the Juggernaut team put in here to really feel like you're basically experiencing Summer Wars. To begin your investigation into the insurance fraud allegedly being performed by some big corporation, you must first set up a fake e-visit with a doctor, and she's kinda cute, haha, to set up a false claim and see where it goes. Long story short, almost all of this section is just puzzling and looking around the fake internet, but you start to put together that a name keeps popping up where it shouldn't be in the databases. Atas. Get it? It's Satan backwards. You see, because the man involved in the fraud scheme is evil. You wouldn't know it unless his name was, relevant to Satan. Turns out this villain's been purposefully working with doctors to murder patients with even mild symptoms so that he can harvest and sell their organs. Basically, you would start an e-visit, tell them your symptoms, they'd send you in for treatment, and that treatment would be a surgery that you don't need, for example, and then you would die and they'd steal all your shit. It's a pretty cliche, kinda standard plot, but I gotta say, this guy's design is pretty cool actually. Anyway, Satan threatens to kill you and sell your organs, but you're an elite, terminally online hacker and you hit him with a virus. He literally goes, "Oh no, I didn't know you could do that, lol, fuck." Then he dies and Microcosm vanquished. Second to last Microcosm, let's go. You're an average, everyday, normal girl that through the internet stumbles upon a devious plot. The introduction tells us that an old man created a program called Doctor that's basically like if Amazon Alexa took over the whole world and everyone was super reliant on it for pretty much everything. Once again, the internet setup in Juggernaut is pretty engaging. This segment adds all kinds of new areas to explore to keep it fresh, which is nice. You can even purchase cool video games like Orange Harvest version 2. Good feeling and taste, the Cultivat virtual fruit game. Juggernaut had high hopes for the future of gaming. This time around, instead of the art gallery, we get some music videos, and they're very good.
Take a step, pull the concept, stick to the script. Yes, we are a band. I'm just in the flow, don't you know about it, Joe? Time out, look around, the crowd just moving, bro.
Coming soon. Apparently, crime rates are quite high, and to match, incidents of fatal car accidents have been skyrocketing.
24. Net news.
Last night, before dawn, there was a collision on a street in District T. All 5 passengers, including the driver, were killed on the spot. The cause of the accident is still being investigated. These types of news flashes come up pretty regularly. Among the hangout chat room style areas of the Juggernaut, the freakish accidents are a regular topic of conversation. You come to befriend a ragtag team of internet randos, like Takashi here, who lives on the internet because his real life sucks. Or Old Guy, who spends all of his time on the internet to complain about how games used to be good and modern games suck, aka me. Fun little Easter egg, the retro game that this guy mentions as being one of the old good ones is Bases Loaded for the NES, which was made by the same company as Juggernaut. Last but not least is Camia. In reality, Camia is a 38-year-old businessman, but she enjoys spending time on the internet where she can portray herself in any way. In this case, a young woman. Camia is based as fuck because she notices you digging into the freak accidents, so she does what she can to help provide you with hints and information. You can tell that she's trying to be really discreet when pointing you in the right direction, but eventually, once you puzzle out her clue, you end up getting into a classified police report that warns of an approaching catastrophic event. One of the online stores begins selling tropical orange flavored pizza. I'm just kidding, it's not quite that bad. Someone is making a terrorist threat that they plan on disrupting the Juggernaut to cause mass death and chaos. The net being disrupted on a large scale in this society would cause hundreds of thousands of deaths since it's completely in control of all traffic, military operations, healthcare, etc. The traffic accidents were little glimmers of proof that the terrorist does in fact have the means to follow through. The police are keeping this threat hidden so as not to cause a mass panic. Another news flash informs the public of more severe traffic accidents. The following commercial is taken over by the terrorists, and they make it clear that the incidents are in fact on purpose. And visiting our friends in the chat room reveals that Camia has died in one of these accidents. The other chatters wonder if her demise had anything to do with the hints that she gave earlier. Apparently, we weren't the only ones that she was a bit chatty with. Whoever the terrorist is gets more and more bold with their threats, constantly taking over advertisements to air their message. They threaten that they will be disrupting the entire net at noon tomorrow. This means the clock is ticking to figure out how to stop them. Out of the blue, you receive an email. It seems that the terrorist has caught on to you snooping around and trying to find information on them. The email informs you that your father has passed away, and but then it gets a little weird. I am extremely excited to imagine that you have grieved over this email. People's miseries almost give me sexual pleasure and ultimate happiness. My brother in Christ, I did not need to know that. This is just the beginning. Your family and friends will all be killed one by one. I will kill, kill, kill. Kill, 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 kill. Kill, kill, kill. Your quest to stop the terrorist/doctor program now amplifies. There are a ton of puzzles in this segment. Like, this goes on for a very long time before the big confrontation. As is to be expected of Juggernaut, the puzzles all revolve around dark subject matter. Truly evil things like Satan, death, and yoga. I have to imagine that yoga was just thrown in there because the password that you put together with all of the evil words is bloody worms. And I like to think that they just couldn't come up with something evil for Y, so they just gave up and went, fuck it, just put yoga. Anyway, solving the bloody worms password gives you the power to destroy the terrorist program, and the little blurb at the end reveals that this entire time you were actually an antivirus type thing that was created by the same person that made the doctor program that turned all terroristy. So you're quote-unquote his daughter since he made you, but you're not really a person like the episode led you to believe. This is what drove you to become so obsessed with solving the case, because you're literally a program built to do so. What a twist. Buckle up, Buttercup, this here's the final microcosm before we get back to Juggernaut's actual resolution with Sarah. Now, to travel from microcosm to microcosm, you of course use the overworld of the mansion. The mansion is almost always eerie in some way, but this particular transition from mansion to microcosm is kinda cool, so I'm going to show you. Throughout the game, you've been collecting film reels, and you have to place them correctly in a puzzle to get this image projected, which somehow then actually transports you. The priest foreshadows, in the dim forest, people are treated like dolls, insanely evil. You take on the role of a woman wandering through a forest. Because this is a Juggernaut story, you of course have amnesia. You can't remember anything about your life at all. You've been traveling far, trying to find answers about yourself. Somehow, you ended up in this dimly lit forest, and it feels familiar to you.
No problem.
On a grave, you find a doll with its eyes slashed out. You eventually come across some eerily quiet houses. No one ever responds or answers their doors when you knock. When you head inside to see if anyone is there, well, this is Juggernaut, so of course there's a ton of dead people with, you guessed it, gouged out eyes. You explore house after house full of dead people, but there's one person who isn't dead. Not yet anyway. Grandma! Grandma is blind and thinks you're some dude named Frederick. She starts rambling about stuff and is like,
Place your hands upon my eyes for some reason.
doing so allows you to see a vision of her memories. Aha, you think to yourself. I have found the only logical solution to figuring out what's going on with all these dead people. I must simply touch their eyes. That will show me their memories of who killed them, because that totally makes sense, for sure. In the forest, you hear another victim scream. How exciting! Come here, freshly murdered guy, let me touch your eye holes. Wowee, yep, he sure definitely did get murdered, and that totally provided us with a lot of information, very helpful. Anywho, Juggernaut has been strange the entire time, but this segment in particular has this unsettling dreamlike quality to it. Like, you know how when you watch Eraserhead, it feels like you're seeing someone else's dream? That's definitely how this part feels. The way that in a dream sometimes you know that you're seeing dream logic and you can comprehend that it doesn't make sense, but also you fully understand what's going on. Like when you come across a table full of eyeballs on a plate in the middle of a dark forest, you don't think, oh my god, what the fuck is there an eyeball doing here? You think, ah, yes, an eyeball, I can touch it to get context clues on what's going on. That's just the new normal now. Eventually, you head to a huge graveyard with all kinds of weird shit going on. There's lumps of unidentifiable flesh on pedestals. There's eyeballs in graves, there's eyeballs in skeletons, eyeballs hidden under super creepy paintings of people you don't know. Things just keep getting more and more unsettling until you find your way out of the cemetery. You see a beautiful, vibrant scene with a peaceful house before you. There's a record player softly humming music that's familiar to you. You have a feeling deep inside that somehow this house is connected to your forgotten past, but it doesn't feel like a good thing. You almost feel like stepping into the house would be like opening Pandora's box. A feeling of disgust gnaws at you. A woman opens the door and invites you inside. The feeling of disgust only grows. The woman asks if anything is bothering you, noticing the unease on your face. You tell her no, but you have an inside thought that it's her, it's the woman that's bothering you. Everything in the house seems so familiar to you. You tell the woman about how you're chasing your lost memories. She comments that you and her look very similar, but that she doesn't know you at all. A mirror in the back of the room catches your eye. Looking into it shows you a vision of children playing in front of the house. Well, most of the children are playing and enjoying themselves. One of them is staring out the window, looking unstable like Bart in that episode of The Simpsons with the pool where he breaks his leg. A second vision shows the same two girls standing out on a familiar-looking hill. They refer to themselves as sisters, and they're discussing a boy named Jans. Both of them look so familiar, and now that you think about it, one of them looks just like you. Could that be you and your sister? As the visions fade away, the woman offers you some tea. You take her up on the offer and bring the cup to your lips, but you notice a strange smell. Something isn't right. The woman insists that you hurry up and drink, and she seems annoyed by your hesitation. You tell her that the tea is just too hot. You should trust me and drink it, she says before realizing that that's the number one thing not to say on the list of things you shouldn't say to get someone to drink tea. The woman goes completely insane and attacks you, and oh my god, her face is scary now. The tea, somehow or another, makes you regain all of your memories. Long story short, you and the insane lady are in fact sisters. You both grew up in this house. Your sister used to confide in you about everything, and she used to tell you how she had a crush on that boy named Jans, and eventually she came to love him. In an attempt to be chill, you tried a wingman for her. You tell Jans all about how cool your sister is, but in an awkward twist, you end up falling for Jans yourself. Which actually kind of makes you the worst wingman in history. Good job. God damn though, who is this Jans? He must be like min-maxed into a charisma build or something, what the fuck? Eventually, the day finally came when you had to tell your sister that you and Jans were getting married. Your sister had always lived in your shadow. She wanted nothing more from you than your attention and approval, but she rarely received it. Then on top of that, you be stealing her man that she's had a crush on since childhood. And that, well, that gets you pushed off of a cliff. The fall from this cliff is what caused you to lose your memory. Your sister believed you were dead and started to live as you, feeling that everything in your life was what she wanted all along. But she realized that she looked just different enough from you that she couldn't just literally become you unless she did something drastic. She began slashing and gouging out the eyes of everyone in town, including Jans, to make sure that no one would ever refer to her as anyone but you again. You showing back up in her life puts her twisted fantasy identity at risk, so she goes to end the problem once and for all. In a shocking twist, your sister stabs herself instead of you. She never wanted to be consumed by the hurt and anger of life, but she just wasn't strong enough to resist it. Her final words are, "I hated you and I loved you so much." That is the final short story of Juggernaut, but it's not over just yet, oh no! There's still Sarah to save. The twisted door is now accessible. Attempting to open it has a shocking message. Change to Juggernaut Disc 3. As you enter the deepest part of Sarah's soul, where the evil truly dwells, you aren't expecting a serene, bright and sunny scene. But that's exactly what lies beyond the twisted door. The beautiful path eventually takes you to a headstone. It appears to be a gravesite for your beloved Sarah. And disturbingly, her hand reaches up out of the ground. Her skin is purpled and rotten, and all you can think to do is to place her pendant back in her hand. Returning the pendant transforms the landscape into pillars surrounded by total darkness. In each direction, there are items to pick up. A coin, a cross, and some garlic. What are we going, vampire hunting? The demon possessing Sarah goes on a philosophical rant about original sin and the total depravity of man. Blah blah blah, the world is filled with evil, everyone has evil in their hearts, people possess evil from birth, evil dwelled within the microcosms because Sarah already held basic human nastiness within her heart. Sarah is like, this is my true self, I am evil and you don't have to try to love me. Unfortunately for Demon Boy, you don't give a shit because just like everyone, you also harbor evil within your own soul. Wa-ta-ta-ta, eat cross, bitch. Well, fuck, that did nothing. How about a taste of coin? For some odd reason, the game makes you dig in the demon goo to use the coin a second time. Also, I would like to point out that the only way that you would know what to do during this sequence and in what order is a random ass scribbling on a wall in the first area of the mansion that provides you no context. There is also little reason to inspect it, so good luck. on, stop, wait, everything stop. Is that the same splart sound effect from the notorious start menu of critically acclaimed game The Ring Terror's Realm? Holy shit, it is. That's really good. Anyway, the demon is like, I sat trapped in that bottle for over 500 years and I had nothing to eat in there. Seriously, there was no Popeyes or nothing. It really fucking sucked and I'm hungry for souls and I will take both you and Sarah's to consume so that I may go on to eat more. To which you reply, hell no, I shan't be overcome by a loathsome demon. My heart has no room for possession for it is too full of love for Sarah. The demon is like, well, alright then, I'll just fucking stab you then. The creature delights in your misery and begins tormenting you. The demon promises to let you go if you back down and give up on trying to save Sarah's soul. It even resorts to dirty tactics like telling you that Sarah wouldn't want you to risk your life for her. Sarah doesn't want you to die. It tries to stop you from resisting with Sarah's sad, pathetic face, but you push that bitch down. Heroically, you take up the sword against the demon. Sarah survives and wakes up in your arms in the soft sunlight with her soul intact. But just wait. There's a new game plus that I suffered through. When the credits are done rolling, the only action you can take is to pick up this chess piece. This is a hint that in New Game Plus, you need to go back to the rooms with chess themes that you weren't able to complete in the first run. You essentially go through a vision of all of the microcosms again, but through Sarah's perspective. All of the stories are a bit more vague and much more warped, twisted, and disgusting. Sarah is clearly suffering throughout this entire ordeal, and her soul is in peril. Remember earlier when I said that there were unidentified flesh lumps on the pedestals in the graveyard? Apparently those were Sarah's ears? The plot unfolds in the same way. You save Sarah from the demon, but then all of a sudden Juggernaut just adds this scene for some reason. Basically, there's a flashback to when you and Sarah visited the shop that sold the bottle. She takes a look at it on the shelf, but puts it back. The two of you leave together, but you return on your own later to purchase the bottle. Something in you is just drawn to it, much to the priest's amusement. Dun dun dun! I think the implication here is that the priest has a ton of victims and purposefully fucks with people. His eyes going all evil leads me to believe that the game is implying that he's the demon actually. But that's such a weird twist because the priest literally helps you the entire game, like genuinely gives you hints on what to do next, so I don't know why he would do that if... I don't know. Maybe you can tell me your interpretation about this freakish game. Maybe the true Juggernaut was the priests we met along the way. To wrap things up here, I have some closing thoughts. I feel very strangely about this game. On one hand, it's so truly unique and bizarre that I can't help but love it. On the other, it can be a deeply frustrating experience. The mini stories are kind of hit or miss, some were really good and others were a bit less interesting. But I have read that this game suffers from some translation issues, so the stories that make less sense, I wonder if they'd be better in not English perhaps? I'm not sure. My biggest regret is not being able to fully convey this game's atmosphere to you very well through this type of video format. Some things really can only be experienced by playing a game yourself. The solution to that problem, of course, would be to recommend that everybody goes and plays Juggernaut for themselves to feel firsthand how unsettling exploring this game can be. The music is really good, the sound effects are horrifying, the visuals are outstanding, and there's this massive, liminal, dreamlike feeling to the design. But I also can't in good conscience actually recommend playing this game to anyone. If you don't have a lot of patience and tolerance for exceedingly slow, agonizing gameplay with incoherent logic, then it's not going to be worth it. Which is exactly why I've created this Cliff Notes version of Juggernaut. I think this game is cool and everyone should be able to enjoy it, but I don't think that many people out there would be willing to suffer through it. If you enjoy the content, be sure to check out my other videos, and if you're feeling kind, maybe throw me a subscribe. I'm getting kinda close to that 100K. Liking and commenting also really helps out, and so does sending me a little tip on my Ko-fi. If you remember just one thing from Juggernaut, let it be that no matter how evil this life can sometimes be, the strongest power in the world is love. Evil cannot interfere. Go be nice to someone today.
Welcome to the Early Nerds. Be careful of Early, she bites.